Hey guys, it's Tal here, and this is my comparison between the Samsung Galaxy A10 and the Huawei Y6 Prime. Now, these two devices are very similar and are also very different in some ways. I'll be exploring all of that in this video, but there are some differences that are ever so slight, especially in price. And by that slight difference in price, I'm talking 900 Naira difference, or less than $3 of difference. So the Samsung Galaxy A10 is 43,000 Naira and the Huawei Y6 Prime is 43,900 Naira on Jumia. And I'll also be doing some tests. Without further ado, let's get to the video. Before we get into testing, for a quick rundown of both their specifications, differences and similarities, these devices were both released in the same month here in Nigeria, and they were both announced in February of 2019. As far as their physicalities go, their body designs are quite different but the same. Now, what do I mean here? Well, they are both plastic, but the Y6 Prime wins it in my opinion as far as the looks are concerned, with that faux leather stitching on the back, and it looks more attractive. The Huawei Y6 Prime felt quite light in the hand at 149 grams, while the A10 was above it at 166 grams. And you can notice the difference when you hold it. I'll just go ahead and say it that a major drawback for the A10 is the lack of the fingerprint reader. During my use, I actually reached the back of the device unconsciously. I was disappointed in the fact that I couldn't get a fingerprint reader, and a lot of people had similar comments about the lack of fingerprint reader in the previous video. The Huawei Y6 Prime has a fingerprint reader, and that could be a major deciding factor for some. They both have 720p displays, 1520 by 720 on the A10 and 1560 by 720 on the Y6 Prime 2019. And the Y6 even has a higher PPI at 282 compared to 269 on the A10. So on paper, the Huawei Y6 Prime has a better display, but on Samsung's display, I couldn't see much of the pixels. The Y6 Prime is 6.09 inches, while the A10 is 6.2 inches. They've got notches at the center, that is Huawei's dew drop notch and Samsung's Infinity V or water drop notch. I like the slickness of the V, and I also like the space that you get on the dew drop. The chin of the A10 is slightly smaller, which makes it have a more screen to body ratio at 81.6% versus 79.2% on the Huawei Y6 Prime. Video streaming on both these devices were of course capped at 720p because of their screen resolutions, and the way I placed them down here, I couldn't really hear the audio from Samsung because of the speaker placement at the back. That aside, here's how they both sound in terms of voice and music. So this is a voice test. My voice is recorded through the phone. Let me know what you guys think about the sound quality and the speaker quality coming right out of these devices. So this is a voice test. My voice is recorded through the phone. Let me know what you guys think about the sound quality and the speaker quality coming right out of these devices. They are both Android 9 devices, and the A10 is running on One UI while the Y6 is EMUI. They both have 2GB of RAM and 32GB of storage, and the A10 has an Exynos 7884 chip, which is an octa-core processor with an average speed of 1.5 GHz. There are two different speeds, but I just did the average. While in the Y6, it's a MediaTek 6761 quad-core processor clocked at 2 GHz. Benchmarks show that the A10 has a single core speed of 1165 and a multi-core speed of 3515, while the Y6 Prime has 836 and a multi-core of 2461. This simply means that tasks will ideally load faster on the A10 due to the octa-core processor compared to the quad-core on the Y6 Prime. Other things to note are that the Y6 Prime has Bluetooth 4.2, while the A10 has Bluetooth 5.0, and they both have 4G capabilities. And in case you haven't watched any of the previous videos, they both have dual SIM slots. So now that we've concluded with that, we're jumping into the testing phase of the video. I made sure that both phones were 100%, so we'll just jump right in. We're going to be doing a speed test, multitasking, battery drain test, heat test after gaming, and a charging test. We'll first start by opening some apps for the speed test that are between 50 MB and 2 GB in size, and we'll also check multitasking afterwards. Now I understand that the A10 has a faster processor and would most likely open apps faster, so keep that in mind before we go into this comparison. The first app we'll open is Riptide GP, and then we'll open Subway Surfers, and then we'll open Fruit Ninja, we'll open Shadow Fight 3, And lastly, we'll open PUBG. Overall, the A10 loads up faster, but startup times fell short sometimes. All this is expected with the faster processor on the A10, of course, as I said, and this doesn't mean too much as far as the Y6 is concerned, in my opinion. I'm not sure how it would be affecting it long term, but I'd be betting on the A10 to still perform after a long while. You can also see that when we get to multitasking, we see all the apps are open. Now, when I click on one, they all load up from the beginning again. One thing to note here is that both phones don't have great RAM management because it's just 2 GB of RAM and it's not enough. It's nothing to worry about though, because singular tasks would run just fine. It would however be good if you don't run too many apps or overtask it. So one app at a time, but 2 GB of RAM is just not enough. So now that we've got PUBG open, we'll get into the battery drain test with 30 minutes of PUBG on each of them. The temperature of the A10 and the Y6 Prime was an average of 35, and after 30 minutes of PUBG gaming and observation, battery went down to 90% on the A10, and when I also gamed on the A10, battery went down to 88%. So it's still just 2% higher than the Y6 Prime. They didn't really heat much, temperature levels just rose up by 2 degrees. I did notice that if I increase the gaming resolution on either one of them, it would definitely take a toll on the battery and the temperature. I was about to do the charging test when I downloaded the battery widget, and I found out that the actual milliamp hour for the A10 is 3300 and not 3400 as labeled. I don't know how accurate this is, but I just thought it's something that you should note. I managed to get both batteries down to 80%, and I used the widget to measure charging speed after 10 minutes. I'm using the chargers that came with the pack of both devices, so let's see how that goes. Charging was much faster on the Y6 Prime by 1% and then 3% afterwards, even though their power adapters both have the same 5V outputs. I left it to charge a while longer again, and it was even more apparent that the Y6 Prime was faster to charge. The front camera of the A10 is 5 megapixels with an aperture of f2.0, while on the Y6 Prime it's 8 megapixels with an aperture of f2.0 as well, and both front cameras can record in full HD. For the back camera, we've got 13 megapixels on both of them, and the Y6 has an aperture of 1.8 while the A10 has an aperture of 1.9. So again, on paper, the Y6 is better. In the photos, however, they came out different. Shots on the Samsung are really soft, but they do so to eliminate noise. On the Y6, it's presented as is with the noise unless you use flash, and as far as the flash goes, I didn't really notice much of a difference on Samsung. But as I said, noise is eliminated, and even on the Huawei, it gives an overly retouched look. Normal selfies on the A10 also look very soft, and when compared to the Y6, it's just apparent. They also don't handle exposure super well, so you'll want to take selfies against colorful places. On the main shooters, I also noticed that the Y6 has a lot more darker shadows, while Samsung has a flat image profile. Not only are the shadows dark on the Huawei Y6 Prime, the highlights are also very high as well, making it lose some of the details in the shots. Basically, the Y6 Prime will produce images with darker shadows more often and brighter highlights, and with some editing you might actually be able to revive the shots. Autofocus was faster on the A10, and stabilization wasn't really the strongest suit in any of these devices. Alright guys, so this is the front facing camera video quality of the Huawei Y6 Prime and the Samsung Galaxy A10. Let me know what you think about the video quality. As you can see, they are both very exposed because the image processing is not that high end here, and they both record in stereo audio. The Samsung Galaxy A10 has visible microphones on the top and the bottom, while the Huawei Y6 Prime has a visible microphone on the top, and I think there's a microphone on the bottom as well. So let me know what you guys think about the sound quality, video quality. Both of them record in 1080p. This is a 1080p recording for both front cameras, and they also both record in 1080p at the back as well, which is a good thing. Let me know what you think about the quality in the comment section down below. One other thing I also noticed from the front camera is that video on the Y6 Prime is wider than the A10, so that's something to keep in mind. As far as my verdict, Samsung has managed to offer something in competing waters for a less than $120 charge. I like One UI on the A10, and Huawei also has new features on the EMUI. Like I said in the beginning, a lot of people might be drawn away from the A10 due to the lack of fingerprint, and I would completely understand. If this device had a fingerprint for the same price, it would however be in my recommendations list. However, the Y6 Prime shines in the body design, slickness, and they are both commendable products. But according to what you've seen, which one would you pick? Alright, so that's it for my comparison and thoughts on both these phones. What do you guys think of this Samsung Galaxy A10 and the Huawei Y6 Prime, let me know in the comment section down below. Also, if you have any questions about any of these devices, let me know. I'll be happy to answer them, and we'll chat in the comment section down below. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you'll be the first to see any new video I post. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. It's out here, and this is my compared Samsung Galaxy A10 and the Huawei Y6 Prime. And the Huawei Y6 Prime. Now, these devices are very similar, and are also very... Who is that now? Who are these people making noise? These two devices are in the same price range or similar. Okay. Brand new A series devices for the budget to mid-range category. What the hell? Ugh.